Well, welcome back, everybody. Today I have the wonderful Diana Tapp. She is coming to us from Australia, and I've known Diana for quite a few years now. And just saying that Diana is one of the best science and chemistry teachers that I have ever met in my life. She is now living and working in Australia, where she is a leadership and management coach and trainer. She is the founder and CEO of World Class Teams. And it's absolutely fantastic to have you here today, Di. So come and say hi.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. And it's great to be here. I'm so excited to be part of this Ignite Your Leadership Summit. So thank you for inviting me, Kathy. It's an absolute honor. And to be honest, I'm dying to hear what the other speakers say too. So I'm very happy to speak with you today. But, you know, this whole scene of saying, how do we keep on realizing our potential? How can we add to the community so that we lift the game for everyone? It's just so exciting, isn't it? And so often we're working as a little island or semi-island. That part where you say, let's bring like minds together, let's make a difference, is just fabulous. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think one of the key things within the summit is that I'm wanting to be able to have the teachers and the students to be able to talk together, so that we can each understand where the other person is coming from. And as one of the speakers spoke about on day 2, he has learned so much from being able to talk to his students about what is important to them. So then we can co-create what we need in the future. So thank you for coming and joining the conversation today. So what you're going to be talking about today, Di, is what would you do if you believed that you could? And an incredible topic. So just before we dive into that, I've got 2 questions for you. The first one is, what do you think are the current challenges in our education system?
Great question. And, you know, as you say, I was a chemistry teacher, science teacher. You always are once you have been, but I'm, of course, a corporate educator now. So the space that I'm going to answer this from is both an Australian perspective and kind of an outsider, but obviously still with a very clear interest and love for education. And I would say 3 things are sitting in the system now that really strike me. The first one is curriculum. I'm sure in New Zealand, like in Australia, we're doing a lot of discussions and reviews right now about what should be in the curriculum, what content should we have that's going to be relevant for students now, that's going to be relevant for them as they move out into the world in the next few years. And unfortunately, I think we're spending far too much time talking about the what's the content. What I believe we need students to create and to develop this love of learning. You know, that's our job. And I think this notion of saying, oh, what's the stuff? It's not the stuff. That's going to change. No matter how much we think we have a crystal ball right now, that will not be the content that's most relevant to the students who are starting school now and coming out in 12 years' time. So that notion of develop a love of learning, so that as they go forward, they believe they can learn, they want to learn, that's going to set them up best in life. Secondly, I think there's always been a pressure on students to do well. There was for us too, but it was some time ago when I was at school. The pressure has certainly increased. And I think we all realise it's to a level now where it's really impacting on students' mental health and well-being. The world is more competitive. That means the pressure goes up. We get the why, but how do we redress that balance so that certainly we have high expectations and students have high expectations for themselves, but there's not this incessant pressure on every little test, every little assessment, and what does it mean? And it's got this huge, profound effect on the rest of your life. Any single item doesn't. In summation, no, it feels to me, and I'm not sure what the answer is, Kathy, but it feels to me that we've got the balance wrong and we need to redress that balance. Thirdly, and this is kind of a wish, but it's really a passionate wish of mine, we need to get back to valuing teachers. They have such an enormous impact. If we say it's to develop a love of learning and it's to look after the whole person, then hello, we need brilliant teachers out there, and you only attract and retain brilliant teachers by really valuing them. If we look historically, we really valued, you know, teachers and policemen and ministers of the church. I don't know where we got it wrong, but we certainly don't value teachers in the way that we did. And I think that's a real problem. You know, I'm certainly conscious. I think the pressure on teachers is much greater now than it was when I was teaching as well. So they really need support. They really need to feel valued. And to be honest, I thought some of it would happen, Kathy, during COVID. During lockdown, we heard so much in the media, and rightly so, about how difficult it was for parents to be the teachers for their kids when they hadn't been trained as teachers. Completely true. But it's interesting that we felt so sorry for parents needing to do that, but we didn't somehow then revere teachers more than we had. It's like, I don't get that. And it bothers me, because we need to find a way. We are going to need more and more from our teachers. Well, you know what? If we're going to need more and more, we need to value them more and more. So I know that doesn't give an answer, but I think it's one of the biggest questions we have to grapple with, is to get back to saying we really value teachers, so that we attract and retain, because it's equally important to retain the best people we can, because they're having the biggest impact on the next generation after parents, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the levels of burnout are increasing so quickly as so much more is being required of them, and there's this part here that teachers need to be teaching, and this part here, and you need to do more paperwork. And it's almost like I'm seeing the love of teaching being lost for so many people. And some of the work that I'm doing with teachers, one of the reasons that they're coming in and saying as their goal for this particular course is they're hoping that their love of teaching will be reignited, which is pretty sad when they start to say that. And then as we're talking about going through the program and looking at different ways that we can teach, and part of it is about being able to bring in our strengths and look at our students in different ways, and being able to nurture the best that is in each of those students, rather than teach content, as you talked about before. I am watching the passion being reignited in many of those teachers, and they are feeling calmer within themselves, feeling happier within themselves, and that's just awesome. And one of the other things that they're saying is that they're feeling freer as a teacher, that they're more able to bring that sense of fun and that sense of play into their teaching, with that pressure coming off.
Absolutely.
So that is really exciting when I see that happening, and I'm wanting to be able to enable that more and more and more, actually, through these sorts of conversations, because I think you're right. If we are spending so much time talking about the content of what people should be learning, then whose should is it? Because so much of that is culturally specific, is particular subjects, and often the people that are making those decisions are the people who were really good at those particular subjects. But
yes,
that there's that recognition that there are so many more intelligences than the previously thought ones, and so it's so much more important now to be able to nurture these people, so that the 40% of 5-year-olds that are in school right now, or that are starting school right now, will be able to have the skills to be able to create jobs in the areas that they're wanting to move into. So
absolutely. And having that confidence and that skill set and that ability. When you look, certainly all we ever managed before and measured was IQ. Now we look and we go, well, 58% of your success is related to your EQ. How well are we doing that? I honestly think teachers can and do that really well when they're not squeezed with admin and content. If you fill the day completely with that, where are you supposed to have that sense about getting the nuance about how people are feeling? And I don't mean we're sitting down and doing a touchy-feely all day, but it's like, did you notice that person was left out? How are we going to include them again? Did you notice you felt a little bit frustrated with that guy? How are you going to manage that emotion? If we don't learn that, and of course it's not just up to a school to do that, Kathy, we know that. It's families, it's villages, it's all of those things. But school is a huge portion of children's lives, and preschool is a huge portion of children's lives. There's our starting point. If we could start that and get that right, then, to be honest, some of the work that I do now, we'd lose it. I'd be made redundant from a number of those things, because there's so much unlearning things that we've grown up with and learning new things that are more appropriate as a leader and a manager now. That's not to put a pressure on teachers in schools. It's just to say, if we could put all the links of this chain together more strongly, we'd lift everyone and give everyone the best chance. And that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also the stuff that I'm seeing, is that the teachers are learning through the programs that I'm running with them, and it's changing their lives because they're learning this stuff around emotional intelligence and understanding about those power of their feelings and their thoughts, which hasn't been taught until very recently. That our teacher training was around, particularly around content and how to deliver content, whereas what is so important now is relationship and understanding how to build relationships and understanding the humanness of every single person, and
Yeah,
how do we bring out the best in this human,
absolutely.
given that we also are.
Brilliant that you're doing it, Kathy. They're lucky.
Fantastic. Well, let's carry on, because the next one is, what do you wish you'd learnt at school?
Mm. When you ask it, I find this a really difficult question to answer. And that, because the truth is, I really enjoyed school. I was one of those little nerdy kids who loved going to school. Perhaps it was because I had two parents as teachers who were both teachers, and incidentally were pretty darn amazing teachers themselves. So what I did was to think, okay, what am I grateful for? What have I looked at now, many years after leaving school, and thought, gee, I'm glad I learnt that, or gee, I'm glad that happened. So three things spring to mind for me. The first one is, never underestimate the power and the impact of a great teacher. So often we talk about schools, yes, but each of us has all of these teachers. Don't underestimate the impact of one. So I was completely blessed to have a brilliant, and interestingly, chemistry teacher, Kathy, in year 11 and 12, form 6 and 7. Sue Russell is the reason that I became a chemistry teacher. So I had known prior to that I wanted to teach. I thought it was going to be maths. I went and I thought, wow, she just made that subject came alive. I thought, this would be awesome. So it's that impact of a teacher. And I know that to this day, I'm in contact with a number of students as well. You know, there's this ongoing relationship, there's ongoing impact. That's not the reason you go in, but it's just realizing, my goodness, you have a massive impact as a person, as a teacher. Secondly, it's that sense that whatever we achieve at school has an ongoing impact. I know that we often say, look, that's just one portion of your life, and it is. But I think we should be under no illusion as to how important that is. When you achieve at school, those people go on to believe that they can achieve and they can learn new things. So if I look at a number of the people that I work with now, senior leaders, from the outside, you would all describe them as, wow, they're really successful. Gee, they're really confident. A number of these leaders go, I just need you to know that I didn't do very well at school. I haven't got a degree. The number of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who have got really high position in companies, but still have this, if I can call it, kind of like a chip on their shoulder, because they don't feel they achieved at school through uni, is extraordinary. It's not to say that it's particularly valid, but it's there. If we see that it's there, it highlights again how important it is that we find a pathway to help students feel successful and to achieve. And it isn't just about effort, you know. In fact, sadly, it's not about effort, it's about achievement. And I know we need effort to achieve, but the world in business life and in working life measures us on achievement. It doesn't measure us on effort. So I don't mean we don't need both in school, but somehow we've got to transition to realize, actually, you need to learn to achieve, because that's what the world is measuring. And so that part becomes important. And I guess the third thing would be to say to teachers, back yourself, because there are many things that your students won't want to do, but you know are good for them. And I'm really grateful for one of those in my own life. So, you know, that I definitely didn't want to do was speeches, public speaking. I was really shy. No one believes this now, but I was really, really shy as a kid. In fact, my nickname at school was Blushomatic. So that tells you how shy I was. So I'm in Form 1 and you had to do your first public speaking. I so did not want to do it, and I was definite that I wasn't going to do it. But my jolly mother, who was the worst mother in the world at that point, would not write me a note to get me out of it. Like, now I look and I think, oh, I'm so grateful for having had to do those speeches. I didn't enjoy them, but I'm really glad that I did, because in the world we now live in, we need to present, not necessarily as a keynote speaker at all, but you need to present to your team. You need to be able to present If you're wanting funding, you need to be able to present on that. You need to be able to present to that group of volunteers. Just mentioned that, 40% of the children coming through now are going to become entrepreneurs. Well, then you've got to be able to pitch your idea. So this ability to be able to present ideas and realize that it isn't just about the content, it's hugely about who you are and your personality and behind that. I wish that would be the change I'd make at school, Kathy. I think while we needed to do speeches, and I'm glad we did, there was way too much emphasis on just getting the content out. And by the way, it needs to be 3 minutes. And if it's more than 3 minutes, 10 seconds, I'm going to cut you off. So the whole focus became wrong. The focus needed to be, what are the 3 points, or what are the key points you're telling us? And you need your personality in that space. We need that more than ever. Look at everything that we are reading and looking at now. We've got a shorter and shorter attention span. So if we don't let our personality be part of it, we've got no chance of it sinking in. So by way of rather what I've learned about how useful school can be, if I can twist it that way, I think those are 3 key things for us to go. We need to make the most of that opportunity.
Fantastic. You've highlighted 2 key points in that as well. And one of those things that are around, actually, we do need to be able to do those things that are difficult for us. Because it's through those difficulties that we learn, that we grow our resilience, that we grow our perseverance, and we feel that sense of achievement of, actually, I never thought that I could do that, but look, I have done that. And so looking for the support of our people around us, the support of our friends, the support of our parents, the support of our teachers, the support of those significant people in our lives, we can try and we can work through each of those things to be able to achieve. And there will be times that we will make mistakes or fail or fall down, and public speaking is something that is scary for so many people, isn't it? And yet, we're talking about public speaking in front of other people, but it may even just be with your partner, and they've asked you what you think of a particular thing. Well, if we haven't had the experience of being able to put our thoughts into words, it makes it really, really difficult.
True.
I love the point that you showed there. Each of the questions that I've asked you so far, you've broken down into 3 key points, and it makes it so simple. Point number 1 doesn't have to be long. Point number 2. Point number 3, and it makes it so simple, doesn't it?
And I think we need that structure. In fact, you're making me laugh now, because guess what happens the next time? There's 3 key points again. I must be a person of 3. But I do think, and I often will talk to people in my role as a corporate educator and talk about, we have so many priorities. If we're not careful, we've got a list this long. Well, none of us can focus on 12 things. It just doesn't work like that. It's 2 or 3, 5 maximum. If we can't recite them and memorize them, they're not going to be top of mind. And if they're not top of mind in the busy worlds that we live now, in every sense, we won't get to them. They'll be in the gunner list. And the danger of that is not even so much that we don't get to them, but that we beat ourselves up for not getting to them, which decreases what we're going to talk about next, our success mindset, right? So it's that, the more we can go, just three, make it simple. I think the better we'll do. We need to contract rather than expand.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it simple is a really good principle to work on in our lives. So keeping it simple, mindset. What would you do if you believed you could? Take it away, Di. Tell us.
Thank you, Kathy. When I look at it, there's a problem we're all facing right now, and it's called the mindset crevasse. We so often doubt ourselves enough that we go, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I think somebody else would be able to do that better than me. I think they'll have more confidence. So what I'll do is I'll just step back a little bit and I'll let them go first, because they probably will be better. When we do that stepping back, what we're really doing is falling into the mindset crevasse. We're going down and saying to ourselves, yeah, I probably can't do that as well, so I won't try. I'll lower my expectations. And the moment we do that, we remove absolutely that chance of really realizing our potential. We might meet a little bit, but we're meeting way less than we could. In order for us to succeed, we need to have the right mindset, a mindset for success. And that's going to drive everything that we do. Fortunately, that success mindset can be taught and learned. So you don't have it or not have it, you can gain it. And so that's where it comes from, that question of, so what would you do if you believed you could? If you really believed that if you tried and tried again with commitment and tenacity, you'd be able to do it. Perhaps it's Thomas Edison who most eloquently said, I haven't failed. I've found 10,000 ways that don't work. The reality is, when we see a successful person, we almost assume that they just drifted in on a cloud. They never did. They're actually the people who have got the success mindset, and that mindset is hugely about trying and trying and trying until you achieve. Everything is impossible until someone doesn't believe it and says, I'm going to make that happen, and I'm going to try until it's there. So if we can have that notion of saying, develop up, sorry, that's the phone going in the background, develop up that success mindset, then we have the chance to say, we'll back ourselves to keep on trying. If we don't have that, we tell ourselves we can't, so we might as well not try. And guess what? Then, of course, we don't succeed. If we tell ourselves, I could try this, I should try this, I think I can, it doesn't mean we will succeed, but it hugely increases our chances of success. So it's building that mindset so that we can be there. Conceptually, it sounds pretty easy. I know it's challenging. I guess I saw that absolutely in my first career, as we talked about, as a chemistry, science and maths teacher, where I was very aware that I had two roles to play. One, of course, was about teaching the students content, talking about equilibrium, talking about simultaneous equations. As important as that, perhaps more important than that, was giving them the belief that they'd be able to master these concepts. People who did chemistry, science and maths, we were the nerdy lot. This was the hard subjects, supposedly. I don't subscribe to that, Kathy, but there was a belief that these were the hard subjects. And so giving people that belief was so important. If you fast forward into what I do now as a corporate educator, leaders and managers are sitting in the same space. So many of them, I couldn't change that. No, this is the way I am. I'm hardwired. Well, I'm sorry, but hardwiring is an excuse. We're not hardwired. We can change, but we have to have a belief. We have to have that success mindset in order to try and to keep on trying to overcome those challenges. So as I look of my career of those two distinct parts, but certainly blended parts, then what it's let me do is come up, and you won't be surprised, with 3 steps to gaining that success mindset. And I'm going to share those 3 steps with you all today. When you look at them, you go, oh, that's kind of simple, really. The longer I'm in this game, the more I realize all of the important things, all of the powerful things are incredibly simple conceptually. What's difficult is making sure we do them, not know them, on a really consistent basis. So I'm going to share the PowerPoint with you all just so that we have the chance to get the visual as well as listening to my voice. And at the end, Kathy and I will have some questions too, which I'm sure we'll just elucidate. So here are, firstly, those 3 steps to building a success mindset. Step number 1 is we need belief. And I'll talk about each of these in turn in a moment, but let's look at the 3 steps first of all, because you go, oh, right, I want these ingrained in your heads and your hearts. Firstly, belief. Secondly, bank your achievements. The things that you've achieved, we need to store those. We need a little bank balance of those that we can refer back to. And thirdly, confidence. And again, I'll talk about that in more detail as we go through. You need all 3, belief, bank of achievements and confidence, in order to have that success mindset. That's what's going to set you up for whatever your version of success is. So let's look firstly at, I wish I could balance like this, firstly at that belief. And when I talk about belief, it's just not like saying, oh, believe in this. There's actually some really clear language, some thought processes in our subconscious. And I want us to train the voice in our head. The voice in our head is so powerful, and yet, sadly, the voice in our head most of the time is not conducive to a success mindset. So I'm going to give you 4 little phrases today, 4 phrases that I want you to practice. And I'm also going to show you the things that we have to unlearn in order to learn these better versions, these better phrases for a success mindset. So bear with, and all of you will have access to the presentation afterwards too, so that you've got these. So we're learning to say what's going to pop up on the left-hand side. You can see on the right, we've got to unlearn some stuff, which is what makes this challenging. If it was a clean sheet of paper, this would be much quicker and much easier. But we have to break old habits and then form new habits. So the first one is, yes, I can. If the first word coming out of our mouths is yes, we're already starting to be on that belief pathway, on that success mindset pathway. And notice that it says yes, comma, yes, I can. It gives you time to go, let it sink into yourself and to other people. And what can I do? Yeah. As opposed to, yes, but I don't really know how to do that yet. Yes, but other people might be able to do it better than me. Yes, but it's really difficult. Yes, I can try that. Yes, I can ask people to help me. It's this often the same meaning, but the words are going to mean that it's perceived by your head and by everyone else in a completely different way. I'm sorry, but I haven't done that before. Yes, I can try that. Same meaning, completely different perception. And remember, going inside our head too, if that voice in your head is, I'm sorry, but, oh, I probably wouldn't be able to do that. You're not going to try. At least not to the same level that if I go, yes, I can try that, let me really go for it. And I'm going to try multiple times. If that's what our head voice is saying, guess what? That's what our legs start doing. That's what our actions become. So yes, I can, whatever comes after that. Secondly, this is a really powerful one. I know it looks similar, but yes and. Yes and does a couple of things. It lets us explore the things that we're a bit scared of, or the thing that someone's asking you to do and you go, really? I don't think that's going to work. We can say, oh, I don't really think. And what we end up in is straight away some element of conflict going out there. Change that to yes and. Yes, and tell me about how that would play out, Kathy. Tell me about what the first step would be. Yes, and what would be some ideas on that? So yes and buys you a little bit of time to think and lets you turn it into a question to, if you like, peel back those layers of the onion to get to the bottom of it. If you want to influence someone and you don't agree with them right now, going straight back and saying, oh yes, but I'm more experienced than you, if you blah, that just turns people off. If you go, oh yes, and tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me, and you can ask, tell me a little bit more about that multiple times. It's such a powerful pseudo question. Instead of, oh, not until. Yes, and once we've got X, Y, and Z, we'll be able to do that. Oh, we can't do that until we've got. Same meaning, completely different perception. So these words on the phrases on the right-hand side, I want you to start seeing them like swear words. We're going to get rid of them. The lolly goes into the jar if you say these ones. Simply, if only we could do this, if only we had more resources, if only we had more people, if only we had more time. You know what? We could all wish that for all we like. It's not changing. Yes. And when we put the priority on this, it will mean that this priority will be further ahead of this one. So let's get focused on this one now. Doesn't mean we become yes people. It's not yes full stop. Notice every time it's yes comma and then a qualifier that moves us forward and keeps us partially in control as well, because you cannot have a success mindset if you think everyone else is in control of you. Okay, that does quite the reverse, doesn't it? Third one, what if we go, gosh, I've got no idea, I don't think this is going to work. Ask, what if we could do this? What would this look like? What if we could reinvent our business? What if we could get different customers? What if we could get extra people on board? It starts us looking forward and looking for solutions as, oh, I wish we could do this. We're not looking for anything when we say I wish, other than looking up, hoping it's going to float down on a cloud. Well, these wrinkles aren't for nothing. Not much floats down on a cloud, you know. We need to chase the things that we want. So asking what if lets us look forward to that. What it also does is ask a question. So clearly it's utilizing the brains of the people around you as well. And the more we can do that, I think it was Richard Branson who said, best way to get a great idea is to get lots of ideas. True. Best way to get lots of ideas, get lots of people coming with a couple of ideas each. That makes it so easy to explore options and to be forward thinking, so that we can turn I wish into let's, because we've said, what if we did this? So those are the first three. And then the last one is super powerful, and it's probably going to challenge us the most. It's learning to say, I'm choosing to, as opposed to I have to. When you think how often the voice in our head and even the voice coming out of our mouth says, I have to go to work today. I have to get this finished. I have to see those students. I have to do this period. All of that. And then we go, oh, do you not like what you do? Oh, yeah. I really like what I do. Well, hang on a minute. We don't say I have to go on holiday. Have to is the word we use when we've got no choice, when it's under a little bit of duress. And if that's the voice in your head, regardless of you saying that's not what I really mean, that's the voice in your head. That's the one that's got the takeover bid. So my challenge to you is start saying, I'm choosing to. I'm choosing to do this. The truth is, and luckily little kids don't realize this when you're a parent, no one can force us to do anything. We actually choose to do everything that we do. Now, I'm the first to say that some of those choices can be really difficult, but the reality is we're choosing. The minute that your voice in your head is saying, I'm choosing to, you're going to think more carefully about that decision. And so often as adults on the success mindset, we find ourselves trapped by doing all of these things that other people ask us to do and saying, I have to, I have to, I have to. You don't, you don't, you don't. You're choosing to. And when we say I'm choosing to, we go, oh, it's my responsibility then. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I don't say that lightly because, as I was saying, sometimes those choices are really difficult. But if that's the voice in your head, then you put the responsibility where it really lies. And guess what? You'll get practice at it. And that's when you really feel that you're in the driving seat. You're doing the things that you choose to do. So important that we have that. So if you get focused on, and I'd say start on one of them first, of course, what's the phrase that you think this could make the biggest difference to my success mindset? Let me get started on that. You'll get a copy of the slides. Many of our clients print this slide out and it's stuck where they're going to see it often, because the first thing that will happen tomorrow is you'll probably use some of those phrases on the right. Darn, well, there's a reason for that. We've been using them for as long as we've been on the planet. Tomorrow, though, you're going to notice it and go, oh, that's not what I meant to say. So start fixing it. Yesterday, you didn't even notice that those words were a problem. So first step, awareness. Second step, unlearning that old habit and learning that new habit. That's step one, our belief, training the voice in our head. Step two, you might have noticed, it's like build your achievement bank. This doesn't mean you need to be a superstar, but I'm a real fan that we need to look at our bank balance of achievements. Now, those achievements might be the group that you volunteer for and how proud you are of some of the things that people that you've helped during COVID, for example. It might be some things that you achieved at school. It may be what you have achieved or what you're doing in your music group, your drama group, your sport. It doesn't matter where it is, but it really matters that you've got a bank balance of achievements. That's how, when you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do this, you look back at that bank balance and go, hang on a minute. Well, you did this, this, and this, so you can give this a red hot go. If we don't have that bank balance, we feel fake. We feel like we're an imposter. We're usually not. It's our belief getting in the way. But you know what? That bank balance is going to go, you can do this. You've done something similar before. And, you know, to go back to Kathy's question about what do you wish you'd learned at school, I know that I was really blessed when I was in Form 1. Remember, I was this nerdy little quiet kid again. But we lost our canteen lady at school, and the principal obviously couldn't get another person to run the canteen. Unbeknown to me, he called my parents to see if I would run the canteen. Truthfully, it must have been because I was good at maths, because there was no other standout qualities sitting there. My parents luckily said yes. So I look back and think, wow. So when I was 11 years old, I was running the school canteen. I ordered all of the goods that we had. I hired the students to be selling. I kept the books or helped to keep the books. It's like, go figure that. And there's been times when I've thought, oh, I don't know if I can manage this. And it's been so good to go, hang on a minute. When you're 11, you're running the school canteen. You can probably give this a good crack. Now, each of us has got times where, and the reason I'm using that example is that in our achievements, they're often things we have done ourselves and decided ourselves. They're also often things where actually somebody else had more confidence in our ability than we had in our own. As teachers, your students will be like that. Understand just how powerful that is in helping them to build their bank balance. Yeah? And as you build that bank balance, make sure you write it down. This is not shouting it from the rooftops. This is purely for your own success mindset. So we know that in Australia and New Zealand, we've got tall poppy syndrome. You don't need to shout to everyone else how great you are, but you need to know, you need it written down on your phone, in your book, somewhere actually written so that you look at it and go, hang on a minute, you don't need more than 5. Here are 5 things that I've achieved during my life that I'm pretty damn happy about, that I'm pretty darn proud of. They're only for your eyes, but that's your bank balance, that when you go, maybe I can't, hang on a minute, remember when you did this? That's what we're falling back on, into that space. And then our third step, how you're perceived is so important. So when you look in the mirror, you know, what do you see? Do you see yourself as younger in this case, but young and successful? And how do people perceive you? So in our society, we need to remember that success is really dependent on two things. One, it is on what you know. If we talk rubbish, people will get found out. You can maybe get away with it for a while, but let's hope that we don't even need to, that we speak about things that we've got expertise in. So it is what you know. That's not enough though. You need to have what you know and how you are perceived. And wrongly, in so many cases in our society, when people look and sound confident, we believe they are competent. Conversely, if you look and sound like you're lacking in confidence, if I get my shoulders over and look a bit shaky, you don't think I know what I'm talking about. So we don't even get the chance to prove that we're competent. So we need to understand, and it's why when I went back to at the beginning when we were talking about learning to do public speaking at school, we need to make sure that kids are not just learning about the content and speak the words. It's about how are you going to be perceived? How do you ensure that people see you as being a confident person? Because confidence in our society equates to competence as well. It's not fair. I'm not saying it's fair, but it's what happens. So we need to work with the rules that we've got. And I hope that you'll remember this little slide, because rule number one about confidence is look confident. You know, that cat would not be able to walk past and have those dogs sitting there if for a single moment it looked a bit scared or shaky. So the first thing, and it's such a trump card in confidence that we need to know, is you just need to look confident. And that means two things: put your shoulders back and make eye contact with people. The minute we do those two things, people believe that we're confident. That's all it takes. Practice it. You know, there's books written about confidence. You need page 1. Shoulders back, make eye contact, look confident. Secondly, sound confident. So if you're going to be speaking, hear yourself saying the words out loud. We all sound incredibly articulate inside our heads, and then you say it, you go, oh, that didn't come out quite as eloquently or quite as confidently as I meant it to. So always practice out loud so that you sound confident. Look at those two verbs, look and sound. You don't have to be confident. You need to look confident and sound confident. Being confident is optional. If you get that, it's a bonus. And the best part about this is it's the only thing I know that you can fake it till you make it. No one can tell the difference. If you look confident or are confident, no one can tell the difference. So practice those parts. It's okay that we're scared. I think too often, again, we go, oh, I'm a bit scared of that, therefore I won't be able to do it. Being scared, being nervous is normal. It says we want to do a good job. That's fine. We just need to make sure that it doesn't prevent us from having that success mindset that says, I'm going to try it anyway. So if we go back to those 3 steps, what do you want ingrained in your head and heart? Belief, your bank balance of achievements, and then making sure that you look and sound confident. When you get all 3 of those as a teacher, as a student, that's when you see your success mindset is really to the fore. And at that point, my goodness, you're going to try all sorts of things, and you're going to keep on trying them with a commitment and a passion that says you will succeed. You know, so many times we're one failure away from succeeding. You know, just get up one more time, but pivot a little bit to see how will I do that differently, because we don't want to be in that thing where we're trying the same thing over and over again. It's like, how will I do that slightly differently? When I've got that success mindset, it will keep me keeping on trying, and that lets me have the world out there ready for the taking. So over to you, Kathy. I'm sure you've got some tricky questions for me.
I certainly have. Well, I don't know whether they're tricky or not, because I know you'll be able to answer them. But it's really just comments and a conversation around the sorts of things that you've been talking about, because that belief mindset is so key, isn't it? And
Yes.
It's developing that awareness of the words that are going on in our heads.
Absolutely. And we, you know, it's not that we've consciously sabotaged ourselves, but in effect we are sabotaging ourselves, because that voice in our head is just so powerful. And so equally, gosh, you can imagine it's almost binary. You know, when you get that voice right, it's like, oh, let me at it. And it's not magic, but we keep trying, and we keep trying with a different level of commitment, because we now believe we can, as opposed to, oh, I'll give it a shot and see how it goes. We should just ban all of those. We have the wrong words listed as swear words, don't we? You know, these words that actually stop us from being the best we can be, they're the swear words.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why this is so important, isn't it, is that most of our mind is our subconscious mind. And the thing is that I think it's about 88% of our mind is our subconscious mind. And the thing about it is that it follows our conscious mind 100% and backs it up.
Yep.
So if you tell yourself, I can't do this, it goes, yep, I can't do this.
Mm.
Whereas if you go, I can do this, or yes, I can, it's going, oh, okay, I can do this. I just need to find a way somehow. And so it is about telling ourselves that and rewriting that programming that we've been giving our brain, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think we absolutely it is, Kathy, and we need to say too and acknowledge, wow, you know, some of us have been very lucky to have been brought up in families where there was a yes, you can, give this a go. It's really important to try. We know as teachers in particular that there are a lot of students coming in who have not grown up with those words either. They've heard, oh, you're a bit of a loser. You won't be able to do that. Mate, you're not good enough. So the hurdle for some students is significantly higher than for others as well. Same process applies, but let's remember that if for some people, they're starting way behind that start line. Others have got their shoes on and they've got their proper running shoes. We need to see a lot like what you've been talking about in the training that you do with teachers, Kathy, that people have got different starting points because they all put their backpacks in the same area. Doesn't mean that they're all coming in with this starting from the same point.
It's interesting talking with the number of people that I've talked with over the years, and often I will ask them, what percentage of the thoughts that do you have in your head about yourself that are negative? Have you ever asked that?
No.
It's fascinating getting the answers. And for most people, 60 to 80% of the thoughts that go on in their heads about themselves are negative. And I have even had some people say 100% of the thoughts about themselves are negative. And so when you've got this sort of level of thoughts about, I can't do this, or I haven't got enough time, or you stupid thing, or whatever are the thoughts that are going through your head, and your subconscious is believing you and backing you up 100%, it makes life very difficult. But the other side of this is that I've also worked with people who, through exactly what you're talking about, have been able to reduce that percentage. And I've had one person who said that she had gone from 60% negative down to 15% negative. And it's just through this training and practicing and recreating those
Absolutely. Which kind of goes that full circle, doesn't it, of why is it so important that schools are a place where students learn to learn, because we can learn all of this stuff. You know, that is the reality. And when we do, look at the take up, it's brilliant. I have a similar story, Kathy, to a young guy who I had on a course. And in fact, I worked with this company for years. He came to start the course 3 times, right? Never passed. Came to all the sessions. Everyone thought he was really confident. He was a really hard case in this company. And I said to him on the last time, I said, so-and-so, I'm really happy for you to join the program. This time, though, we actually need to complete. We need to complete the assessment so that you gain the qualification. So if you're committed to that, I'm committed to helping you to do that. But if you're committed to that, you're in. Otherwise, you're taking someone else's place. Oh, yeah, no worries, Di, no worries, Di. Anyway, the first day after we finished, looking around, can I have a word? Sure, he said. I just want you to know, like, I was really hopeless at school. I was really hopeless at assignment. So I said, and there was the gem, right? He didn't believe in himself. That whole background of, you're hopeless at school, you can't do this. I said, come on, let's look at some of it now. So we opened up the first assessment and we started to do it. And he looked at me and goes, is that all I need to write? Like, is that all? Yeah, that's totally all you need to write. Do you want to do another question? Is that all I need to write? So tell you what, mate, I'm coming in again tomorrow. If you do these tonight, I'll mark them for you tomorrow so that you know straight away. So this guy, I will never forget, Kathy, at the graduation, he graduated obviously that year. He was so excited. They go, can we do some more selfies? I need to send them to my mum straight away. You know, it's like, and there's that uptake where you see that different, that's the joy, that's the drug of doing what we do, isn't it? And you look and think, so at any stage, that negative mindset can be undone and redone as a success mindset. It's so important that we do it's possible, and it is the biggest buzz on the planet to see, isn't it? And you think, gosh, there's some people flying. Yours even more so when you go far out. Imagine those negative thoughts becoming positive. What's that person going to do now? Just extraordinary. It's great.
And there's that achievement bank, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I was talking to a young person 2 days ago, actually, and they were talking about their training to be a yoga teacher.
Oh, cool.
And talking about every single person in their yoga teacher class is having to deal with this mindset stuff, the trauma that they've experienced through school of being told, oh no, they can't do this, or that they failed this particular thing, or whatever. So again, it's this training the head voice. I can do this. This will have an impact in my life, and so on. So
absolutely. And equally, us as teachers, as parents, as colleagues, encouraging people to try again, because sadly we're really good at saying, oh yeah, just try again, but actually in our words and action, you haven't managed to do that yet. That's a complete saying, don't bother trying anymore because you're hopeless at this. When you say, okay, what will we do differently? Unless we get that right, we say in business, we say to people, it's okay to make mistakes. Someone makes a mistake and they get a written warning. It's like, well, hang on a minute. We need to make sure, and it's where we need to be really tough on ourselves in all of our roles, particularly in leadership roles, to say, are we really fostering what we say we're fostering? Sometimes our talk is a heck of a lot stronger than our walk. But if you're choosing, of course, our walk speaks louder to the people watching us than our talk does. They've got to match. And unintentionally, inadvertently, they're often not matching. And it's in the most subtle way, isn't it? It's the, oh, Kathy, I'll show you again, But I just said, this is a pain. You should already be able to do this. How does that work with a success mindset? So we need to be tough on ourselves and good at observing and reflecting and going, hang on, what are the little things that I do that are probably not conducive to building my own success mindset, but also helping others to have the success mindset that I know is going to help them in the most positive and useful way in their entire lives.
Thank you for sharing that. There are two phrases that I have trained out of my head over the years, and one of them is, I can't do that. And what I've replaced that with is, I can do that. There's got to be a way.
Yeah.
And that has been so freeing, because my brain then knows I need to be able to find the way, and it will come. And the other one is, I haven't got enough time, because when you're in that frame of mind, everything expands and you just don't have enough time. And to be able to replace that with, I have all the time I need to do the things I have to do with ease, has been hugely liberating.
Good work. I love that. My time one is similar, but a little bit different. Because you know me well enough to know the optimism part. So yeah comes in, sometimes not with the and, right? Just yes. And so it became, oh my gosh, 52 things to do on a Friday afternoon. So the voice in my head that I trained was, oh, schedule that. Because the minute you go, I'll schedule that, it's got to go into a slot. So suddenly it goes, oh, there is no slot here. So it's either got to replace something that you've already put in, or it's got to go into a slot next week. All of those, you're right, though. It's the same thing, isn't it? The voice in our head, I'll make time for that. Well, you can't make time. You can only use time. You can schedule time. So it's just seeing that power, Kathy, you're right, and realizing for each of us, there are phrases that we've grown up that are really helpful and conducive to a success mindset. And there are also phrases that are not conducive to that. And it's picking those and not just saying, I won't use that. It's exactly what you have done. It's saying, what will I say instead that will help? Because unless we replace it with what's going to help, sadly, we'll just keep reverting and be annoyed with ourselves for doing so. So fabulous.
And the other part of it that I wanted to be able to pick up on was the confidence, because it makes such a difference. And you have got the looking confident and the sounding confident. And I loved your thoughts there about practicing what we're going to say, so that when we actually do go and say it, it comes out in some semblance of order. So it's one of the jokes in our family, if you like, of say it with confidence and people will believe you. And so it's amazing what our boys have been able to come up with at the table. And we're almost like a running joke of say it with confidence, Dad, or say it with confidence, Mum. So it is part of that. But I wanted to tell you a story about a woman in Bangladesh, because I've done work with university students over in Bangladesh. And there was one particular day where we had 140 university students, and we started off all together in a room and we did a session all together. And then we broke down into groups of 30 or 40 and went through various 1-hour workshops. Now, one of the workshops that I was taking was communication and body language for corporate success.
Oh, cool.
We only had an hour, so there's not a lot that you can do in that amount of time. So we looked at body language, and we looked at particularly those words around confidence, and what did it look like in our bodies when we weren't, and what did it look like when we were confident. And the other thing that we looked at as part of that is breathing. And I know many of the other speakers are talking about breathing and the power of breathing. And I really saw this particular day. And we stopped and counted breaths and took big, deep breaths into our stomachs and felt what that felt like. And at the end of each of these workshops, I had 30 to 40 young people standing there so confidently. Now, why was this important? Because after that, we all went back into the big room with 140 people. And the person that I was working with chose one of those students, a girl, and put her on the stage in front of 140 people. Right? So what I saw her do was instantly this, and she shrunk. And I was sitting about 3 meters away from her, and she looked over at me, and I just said to her, confidence, and put my thumbs up like that, right? And the people that had been in her class also from the back of the room went like this. And I watched her do this.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what Ahmed then did was to try and break her. He put her in an incredibly stressful situation, threatening to cut her hair if she couldn't do what he was asking her to do, Muslim country, etc., etc. I think only he could have gotten away with that particular exercise, because it crosses so many boundaries in my but it was an incredibly powerful exercise, so let's just run with that. Anyway, what he asked her to do was he gave her a book on her hand, and he counted to 3, and she had to find a new place to put that book. Okay, and so he kept on doing this, 1, 2, 3, and she put it on her head, 1, 2, 3, put it on her lap. Each time she had to come up with a new place to put it. The thing this particular day, as she was sitting up tall, up confident, looking happy in front of all of these people, is that she kept on being able to find new places to put it. And afterwards, she came up with about 20. And Ahmed told me later that usually these women can only come up with 5.
Yeah.
Because at the end of 5, they are so stressed within their brains that they can no longer think. And that was this whole experience, was this confident, was breeding success. And she just kept on being able to find new and new and new possibilities. So yeah, he said to me, what did you do to her?
Yeah, spells.
And all it was confidence. So breathing, the position that we're sitting in, hugely powerful.
And I think that's the thing, Kathy, isn't it? It just says that, it reinforces again and again. It's simple stuff. I think so often as adults, we look for things to be really complex. And part of me says it's almost because if it's complicated, we've got a reason not to be good at it or not to do it. When it seems really simple, it's go, oh, is that all it is? Yeah, that is all it is. But do it, and do it really consistently. And when you do, you realize, oh my goodness, that's where the power is. What an extraordinary story, right? And what a difference. I can only begin to manage. You make me goosebumpy, because you can only begin to manage at that moment what happened. But what happened after that? I bet you that young woman is doing all sorts of things that she never thought she could, as will everyone else who was in the group with her, because they also saw that transition and supported her. And that's the lovely flow-on osmotic effect that we get here too, isn't it? When people work together in these things and see each other move, it actually gives them a confidence too, to say, oh, I can do that too. I mean, that's the other thing. We talk about peer pressure for teenagers, peer pressure is relevant for everyone in subtle ways. If someone else does, we go, oh, maybe I could, and we've worked with that person, oh, maybe I could do that too. So it lifts everyone. That's awesome. Wow, what a story. Go you. I bet your heart was just singing.
It absolutely was, and being able to talk with her afterwards, and she was absolutely and utterly singing, as you're saying there. Anyway, thank you so much, Di, for what you've been able to bring to us today, those 3 simple steps to deal with that mindset crevasse and enable people to be able to believe that they can do incredible things. So the first one being that belief, banking your achievements, and developing that confidence. So fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much.